What is an unexplainable memory from your childhood? I remember, very vividly, seeing a leprechaun in the hallway of my house. It freaked me out so bad that I woke my mom up yelling someone's in the house. We walked from room to room with kitchen knives looking for the leprechaun, but never found that shifty little bastard. Well, it's because you blinked up. When I was a little kid, I thought that the mountain ranges on the horizon on the way to Grandma and Grandpa's house were built by my Uncle Richard. I have no idea how this idea got into my head, but I remember that when I figured out that there was no way it was possible, I was pretty bummed out. Lol, that's hilarious. I have this memory of sleeping in an office block in South London with my mum on an airbed. I recall looking out of the window and feeling sad. Years later I was driving and got a very strong impulse to stop outside this building, and I was 100% certain it was that one. Every time I went past it felt odd. My mum says it didn't happen. Everyone else concurs. My best conclusion at this stage is that I probably had a very vivid dream that became conflated with something else. Mum doesn't want you to remember something more sinister and painful, most likely. Doubt it. Childhood was pretty standard. Didn't really have anything bad, luckily. My friend's dad came up to me and said he had a secret to tell me that I couldn't tell anyone else. Then he said I'm secretly in love with you, but that was where it ended. Oh man, that's really weird. I know. And his wife, my friend's mom, always seemed to dislike me. I think there might be a connection there, but I'll never know for sure. My epilepsy is focused in my temporal lobe, so just about everything from my past is hazy. People remind me of shit we did, and it's like hearing about it from the first time. I can watch TV shows every few years, like they're almost new. Now I'm tearing up a bit / it sounded cool typing it out. Not so cool reading it. Cool when you get to rewatch The Office for the first time. I shit you not, I've seen it 3 or so times now I think, and I forget Michael leaves every single time. I get invested, get a good binge going, then it hits me hard as soon as Holly appears. When I was about 4 or 5, I was in the foyer by my front door when I saw my father come in the house, put down his briefcase, and then walk to my mother to give her a kiss on the cheek. Then the front door opened again. It was my father, again. I looked next to me where I had seen him put his briefcase. It was gone. I looked back at him, scared, and said, "You just did that." I have never hallucinated in the more than 25 years since this happened, and nothing like it has ever happened since. I welcome theories or explanations. Thanks. Glitch in the Matrix. I used to have nightmares. My dad put up a poster of Peter Pan in my room, and told me that when I went to sleep, Peter would fly out of the poster and chase all of the monsters away. I never had another bad dream. The whole neighborhood thought I was kidnapped. I don't really know why, and what the actual fuck is the thought process of how they think that happened, but apparently the people are frantically searching me. What I remembered is that my elder cousin and her husband took me to an internet cafe to let me watch them pick their wedding outfits. When we returned, everyone was shocked. My brother smiles because he knew I was in trouble. My mom was crying, and my dad slapped the shit out of me. It was so surreal. Shouldn't they have been pissed at your cousin instead? And why the fuck didn't they ask your parents' permission? This one is really odd. I know, right? This one also made my head hurt mayo. Did you ever get an explanation, when you got older, of what actually happened? When I was really young I was being babysat by a couple of teenage/college age girls that were friends with one of my older cousins. They took me to a party, laid me down in a random bedroom upstairs, and put on a random videotape that definitely wasn't Barney or anything else suited for children. My mom swears this never happened, but I remember it way too clearly for me to make it up. The watching TV bit of this sort of happened to me in a different way, but I remember it quite clearly. My babysitter wanted to hang out with her friends, so I got left in the back room for some reason watching Coming to America with Eddie Murphy. I had a nice time and asked my mum if that babysitter could visit again. My mum told me that when I was a toddler, I would almost never drink any liquids. This was until I was 5, when I hit my jaw on a pole, and for some reason, after that, I always drink lots of water, even to this day. Your mom probably said drink your water or I'll hit you in the jaw with this pole. If no one else will reward you for this beautiful comment, I will. Reward me too, thanks. I remember being shot in the arm with a plastic arrow, which still penetrated my arm, by some teenage kid. I also remember being afraid along with the other kids of this one house on the street that was like abandoned, but not abandoned. We all thought it was haunted. It was fucking creepy. I also remember waking up one night when I was really young and one of my stuffed animals was crawling up my torso and I couldn't move until it was on my chest and I can't forget it. I also remember microwaving a bag of popcorn for like 5 minutes when I was really young. Not sure what the fuck I was thinking, but I ruined a microwave. I also remember waking up one night when I was really young and one of my stuffed animals was crawling up my torso and I couldn't move until it was on my chest and I can't forget it. Okay, so this one really strange memory is in the middle of 3 other easily explainable memories. WTF. That one's easy to explain. Has something similar happened to me. It's sleep paralysis. TL. Doctor. You end up waking up during your REM cycle of sleep, so you can't move, and your brain still tries to dream, causing hallucinations. Me and my friends used to visit a haunted mansion regularly when we were younger, hoping to see something weird. One day we did. It's a giant ass building, and it was always beyond me why someone would just abandon it and let it rot away. It was always apparent nobody lives in there, so we got scared shitless when lights went on in every single room. My friends to this day swear they saw a figure running through the buildings at an incredible pace, not trying to look out the window, but just running really fast. I didn't. Nonetheless, the moment they started running I also went full on Usain Bolt mode. Since they still say it's what happened, I don't have any reason to doubt it. So either we saw something paranormal or just a hobo that really liked installing light bulbs in an abandoned mansion so that he can run from room to room just to scare people that are watching the building from the outside. Either way, the rest of my life I for sure won't even remotely go close that building anymore. I don't believe in the supernatural today, but I used to, anyway. So there I was, a 7-year-old kid in rural Utah. I was staying the night at my grandparents' house on Main Street. I didn't want to sleep, so around midnight I went down into the basement. I took my Matchbox cars and played Night City with my glowing better blocks. I had this little metropolis going on when my uncle came down to play with me. Should I mention my great uncle died when I was 2? Well, he did. Anyway, my great uncle and I played Night City for a good hour. I remember it like it was yesterday. He drove the Lincoln because that was his favorite car. Anyway, it got late. He had to leave so he wouldn't miss his train. He left. I went to sleep. The next morning I asked when uncle was coming back to play again. My grandparents were slightly offended that I brought it up. They hadn't seen him since before I was born and wanted nothing to do with him. He was the black sheep of the family. I said him, and I played cars and showed them the car that he drove in our city. They were uncomfortable with this and chalked it up to my imagination. I never met my uncle. He died when I was 2. Over the years since then, I have learned that he drove both a train for Union Pacific and a Lincoln NKVii. To this day I don't know how I knew those things. I don't believe in ghosts or an afterlife. But 7-year-old me knew things about a relative who died when I was 2 and was never spoken of due to certain family issues. To this day I don't know what happened that night, but I remember playing Night City with some guy who said he was my uncle like it was yesterday. He was super nice, and at the end of the game simply left out the back door. Sometime before the age of 5, I remember being convinced that if I tried hard enough and believed in myself, I could fly. So I would practice flying, jumping down the stairs when nobody was watching. I never developed my ability to fly, but I vividly remember basically cannonballing down 14 steps and just gliding down in midair and landing at the bottom totally safe and uninjured many times over the years. Not particularly interesting, but something I've always wondered about. As a kid it was only my mum and I. Sometimes she'd leave me home alone while she was at work, for instance, during school holidays and some weekends. I was about 7 and the first few times I was terrified, completely convinced a serial killer would break in. So I'd take enough food from the kitchen, then lock myself in my bedroom all day. Wouldn't drink too much water to avoid using the bathroom. When I watched television I set it to the lowest volume possible and sat right up close to listen. And I wouldn't turn on any lights when it got dark. Just squinted at my books near the window. That way burglars wouldn't know I was home. I played hiding games with myself sometimes. Like, can I fit into this hamper so that burglars won't find me if they break in? After a year of nothing happening, my nerves settled, though I was still locking the bedroom door after me. I don't remember what I was doing, but I was in my bedroom when I heard a door slam in the living room during the daytime. I froze. There was rustling, and I could hear heavy footsteps back and forth. I remained totally still. Whenever it went quiet, I thought maybe it would be okay to get up, and then noises would start again. I heard things moved around, maybe shuffling. The movements were purposeful, in a hurry. I don't remember how long it was until they stopped long enough that I thought they left. I don't recall whether I heard the door slam shut again. Honestly, I think I just got sick of sitting complete still in one position. The sun was setting, and I crept out to look around. The place was maybe messier, but our shithole apartment was always in disarray, so I couldn't really tell. For some reason I thought I'd get in trouble if anything was missing. So I started tidying up. My mom came home later, and I didn't say a word. It was probably just my mom coming back for something, or a neighbor, or at most, an opportunistic thief who didn't find anything worth stealing. But I did always wonder what happened that day. That was your future therapist sorting through your baggage. I remember being at a playground with my family and seeing lightning strike right in front of me. Didn't hear any thunder. No one else saw it, but I remember seeing it pretty vividly. Not sure if there's something that can go on in your brain that would cause something like that to happen. But I remember pleading with my mom to believe that I had just seen a lightning bolt strike right in front of me, and she just ignored me. I'm like 95% sure I sort of got hit by a car when crossing the street with my mom. There was a red light and we didn't cross at a crosswalk. A car inched forward, and I remember falling onto the hood. But I was fine. I used to literally get flashbacks for years, but my mom swears it never happened. I think she's lying. I was like 3 to 5 years old when this happened. I woke one night while camping in a cabin, and I saw a cattail dangle from this lamp. It had sink down, and then disappear back up into the lampshade. It also started calling for me, going like hoo-hoo. Unnerved the hell out of little me. I can't remember if I just never checked to see if there was anything there, or that I did check and there was nothing there. I chalk it up to just being so tired I was hallucinating. One of my first memories as a child was when I was playing outside when I was 3 to 4 years old. I was hiding behind a bush and some kind of bug, guessing it was a spider, was crawling up the side of the house next to me. When I reached down to pick it up, someone grabbed my arm. I remember it scaring the crap out of me, and when I instantly turned around and no one was there. I don't believe in God or angels, and I've always wondered if this was a dream, because it's the only thing that I can't explain.